It is November 22nd, 2025. Why is this day important? You know, this train haul, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, he was actually JFK's assistant labor secretary. It's too early for a Saturday morning. I got 8 minutes.
Once you put the food tray down, doesn't mean you get that seat. Also, please be kind in considering two other travelers who want to enjoy. And the train, once the train has come to a complete stop at the station and the doors open, please be mindful of.
Over the past few months, I've been reading and watching a lot of books and movies, documentaries about JFK and sort of everything about who he was and the events leading up to his assassination and what happened.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed.
It is 11 something and I just arrived in Washington, D.C. and I came here today because it's the 63rd anniversary, 62nd anniversary of the JFK assassination, and he is buried here at the Arlington Cemetery along with his brother, who was also assassinated in 1968. There it is, all that freedom. I don't know why I thought that there were going to be crowds at Arlington Cemetery. Maybe there will be crowds at the actual cemetery, not at the metro station, but it looks pretty deserted to me. Very deserted. And maybe part of the reason for that is people don't know our history. Obviously, there has been a coordinated long-standing plan and push to control history, because he who controls history controls the future. Let's see if there's anyone else who decided to come out today. It's good to know that you can't bring mics into Arlington National Cemetery without a permit. They really try to make it seem as if it was an honor to get thrown into the meat grinder for US imperialism, but it was not. Most of US military service members, especially those who died for US empire, came from poor and underserved backgrounds.
This is right here is the Arlington House, better known as the General Robert Lee House. That's the guy that owned the land here.
Oh, so he's at the top of the hill. Okay. So JFK is through there.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
You too. I don't know why I thought that the JFK Memorial would be at the top of the hill. I think it's pretty meaningful that it's free to come here and come see and experience all of the graves and feel something about our shared American identity. That all these young men, mostly, died for our freedom. And how many millions of people around the world have we killed? So, did you guys know that JFK and his brother, Attorney General RFK, were fighting a secret battle against Zionist extremism? Yeah. If this president had been allowed to carry out his term, carry out his vision, I don't think that we would be in the same situation that we are in today. I don't think that Palestine would be in the same situation that it is today. Once LBJ took over as president, the entire trajectory of the world completely changed. LBJ came from a Christian Zionist family, and he was an ardent Zionist. Can you tell me why you're here today?
I'm here today because it's the anniversary of John Kennedy's death, and I have made it a custom to be here on those anniversaries each year.
How many years have you come?
Ever since 1963, with the exception of 3 years in the late 1960s.
Really?
When he died, I was, let me think, I think I was 20.
So do you remember that day?
Oh, vividly. It was just so completely unanticipated and an immediate sense of great loss. His brother was killed not even 5 years later. And depending on what you read and how much of it you read, you can come to your own conclusions as to who might have been responsible for both those deaths. What you may not know is that he and his brother Robert had been in Vietnam in the 1950s. They had a better sense than most Americans, even other American public officials, as to just what was going on there. President Kennedy was my commander-in-chief. So this is Robert Kennedy's gravesite. By the way, 2 days ago was the 100th anniversary of his birth.
RFK?
November 20th.
Did you know the president, sir?
I'm sorry? He was my commander-in-chief when I was in the Army.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Young people, not casting any aspersions on you. Young people don't want to serve.
He seemed like a war hawk to me a bit. Let me know that my generation, young people don't want to serve in the military anymore. So he laments the fact that it's an all-volunteer army now. Well, young people don't want to serve in the military because they see what our military is doing across the world.
Almost to the hour. Right now, being about 1:45 or so, it is 62 years ago today in Dallas that unfortunately Mr. Kennedy lost his life. I was a young lad of 8 years old. I remember that day as clear as a bell. Everything stopped dead. For younger people today, something like 9/11, and every time I see a biography or something about war, I think, such a waste of lives. Like here we are at Arlington with 400,000 people apparently that are buried here.
Who do you think was responsible for the JFK assassination?
Well, I've followed various theories. I will tell you this. It's hard to know for sure. That day, they were able to get people who spoke and who were glad to be interviewed. But the next day, those people all clammed up.
Kennedy, the day Kennedy died, I was in high school. I remember it well. I was in gym class. They canceled class that day. Everybody went home and kind of mourned. I remember that day. I think anybody who was alive and old enough to remember it remembers it. And then if you've ever seen the video of Walter Cronkite, he was like the newsman, took off his glasses, eyes got watery.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
Who do you think is responsible for his death?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not positive we know the truth. I'm sure we don't. I'm not a believer in the Warren Commission, but could I tell you what really happened? Probably not.
Okay, I think I found one older gentleman who is not a neocon in Arlington National Cemetery. I mean, everyone that I asked of who do you think killed JFK? They say that nobody knows. I don't know if people are just kind of afraid to speak on it or they really believe that nobody knows. I don't know. I think the two main guys that were responsible for the assassination of JFK and also Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and RFK, along with other peripheral characters in their stories. So many, countless. It's Allen Dulles and James Jesus Angleton. Allen Dulles was the head of the CIA, and he hired James Jesus Angleton as the head of counterintelligence in the CIA, which is actually a confidential position. And JFK fired Allen Dulles, and he was fucking pissed. But even though JFK fired him, it's not like he stopped working. He started working harder to coordinate the assassination of the guy that fired him, along with James Jesus Angleton. JFK went to Palestine, actually, when it was still called Palestine, officially, when he was 22 years old. In his letter to his father, he writes about how the only side that's like dropping bombs or doing any terrorism are the Jewish terrorists. He said, he literally writes in his letter to his father that the Israelis, or sorry, they weren't Israelis then, they were Jewish terrorists, that they would attack their own shit and then run to the British, because it was still under British occupation at that point, and like scream and cry and get the British to like save them from themselves, but blame it on the Palestinians. JFK wanted to take the country in a different direction. Yes, he still spoke about communism and was an anti-communist, but I believe that he was really changing, like really getting a real sense of the forces he was up against, the way of the United States, and wanted to take the country in a completely different direction, trying to force the Zionist regime to register as a foreign agent, the AIPAC precursor, as well as stop Israel from developing nuclear weapons. This is what got him killed, along with trying to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces and withdraw from Vietnam. JFK wanted to have complete U.S. withdrawal from Vietnam by 1965. He had put that presidential memorandum in. When LBJ took presidential office, all of the military coups, the invasions, the assassinations, the genocides were unleashed. JFK would have never allowed that, because he wanted peace with these countries. I find it telling that they put this quote of his on the memorial: "Ask not what your country can do for you." Well, his country murdered him. That's what it did for him. Okay, so that concludes my trip at the Arlington National Cemetery. All of the people that I spoke to and asked them who they thought killed Kennedy, no one mentioned Israel. This history has been completely erased. That he and his brother were fighting against Zionist extremism. He wanted the precursor to AIPAC to register as a foreign agent. They still have not to this day. And he didn't want Israel to have nuclear weapons. And not only do they have nuclear weapons now, but all of the uranium that was used to start their nuclear program were actually stolen from a plant in Pennsylvania. So on our last stop today, I came to the White House because I think that this is really emblematic of the Zionist occupation. Everything is occupied by Zionists, by the Zionist agenda. And this is what JFK was fighting against, Zionist extremism.
And that is the most important topic on earth: peace. What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time. I speak of peace because of the new face of war. Total war makes no sense in an age where great powers can maintain large and relatively invulnerable nuclear forces and refuse to surrender without resort to those forces. It makes no sense in an age where a single nuclear weapon contains almost 10 times the explosive force delivered by all the Allied air forces in the Second World War. It makes no sense in an age when the deadly poisons produced by a nuclear exchange would be carried by wind and water and soil and seed to the far corners of the globe and to generations yet unborn. Today, the expenditure of billions of dollars every year on weapons acquired for the purpose of making sure we never need them is essential to the keeping of peace. But surely the acquisition of such idle stockpiles, which can only destroy and never create, is not the only, much less the most efficient, means of assuring peace. I speak of peace, therefore, as the necessary, rational end of rational men. I realize the pursuit of peace is not as dramatic as the pursuit of war, and frequently the words of the pursuers fall on deaf ears, but we have no more urgent task. Some say that it is useless to speak of peace or world law or world disarmament, and that it will be useless until the leaders of the Soviet Union adopt a more enlightened attitude. I hope they do. I believe we can help them do it. But I also believe that we must re-examine our own attitudes as individuals and as a nation, for our attitude is as essential as theirs. And every graduate of this school, every thoughtful citizen who despairs of war and wishes to bring peace should begin by looking inward, by examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War, and towards freedom and peace here at home. First, examine our attitude towards peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it is unreal. But that is a dangerous, defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that mankind is doomed, that we are gripped by forces we cannot control. We need not accept that view. Our problems are man-made. Therefore, they can be solved by man. We all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures. And we are all mortal. And however dim the prospects are today, we intend to continue this effort, to continue it, in order that all countries, including our own, can better grasp what the problems and the possibilities of disarmament are. To make clear our good faith and solemn convictions on this matter, I now declare that the United States does not propose to conduct nuclear tests in the atmosphere so long as other states do not do so. We will not. And it is the responsibility of all citizens in all sections of this country to respect the rights of others and respect the law of the land. All this is not unrelated to world peace. When a man's way please the Lord, the Scriptures tell us, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. And is not peace, in the last analysis, basically a matter of human rights? The right to live out our lives without fear of devastation, the right to breathe air as nature provided it, the right of future generations to a healthy existence. We must labor on, not towards a strategy of annihilation, but towards a strategy of peace.